How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of BlenderNest. We're all here. We're all doing okay. We're in quarantine for the most part, all of us here. And one of the things I want to talk about here today is online learning, which is something we're all a part of, the education industry. And I want to talk about the value of like an online course rather than, say, going to school or something like that. So, if for those of you who have anyone here done any online courses before?
Nope. I know somebody who might have, but I'm not sure.
What are y'all's experience with them? Or like, do y'all find them to be any valuable, or are they pretty much like rinky dink?
Most of my master's program was online.
For me, because I went to school for film, but I taught myself motion design. So almost everything I've learned in my day job, everything I've learned in my day job came from online education, starting with tutorials like Video Copilot, and then recently YouTube's gotten much more saturated with good content. But I've also purchased definitely like $2,000 to $3,000 worth of courses and online educational content over the past few years. Because it's like I can do 10 YouTube tutorials, which is great, and there's a lot of great content out there. But I mean, with those courses, you're getting people like deep in the industry releasing a lot of their experience. And I remember the first time I bought a course and it was a couple $100. I was like really nervous about buying it. Like, am I wasting my money? Can I just do this on YouTube? And it was like the content was just so dense, and it just like doing one course was like doing like 50 YouTube videos. Not that there's anything wrong with YouTube videos, but it's just, really condensed and like focused information on what I wanted to learn.
Yeah, I purchased a couple of paid course content packages, like from Gleb Alexandrov and 80 Burrows. You know how they do the hard surface type ones and the space VFX ones. Usually I don't purchase courses from like other sites, like Udemy and stuff like that. If I want it, it's usually because there's someone very specific in the community that I've been following for a while, and then they've got something of value that's sort of branded around them, and then I'll buy that. But in one of my videos, I think it was the best way to learn Blender 2.8, I had a little bit of a discussion about like the differences between free and paid content and the value that you can get between both of them. And it's not like one's better than the other necessarily, but with paid content, it's quite often the case that you have better access to the creator, so you can like share in discussions with them easier than you would do with free content. And also, even just the act of buying a course, not even just that it's higher quality in quite a lot of the time, but the act of buying it makes you more inclined to follow through with it as well. Mm-hmm. So there's very much like a psychological like incentive to go for paid content as well. But yeah, that's just something that I think people should keep in mind. People who are on the fence, who like have their eyes on paid content that's not too expensive that it's going to make them really regret it and worry about it. But just, if you're interested, I'd say it's definitely worth trying a paid course at some point.
Yeah, I have a question in general. So you were saying that you were like where you're buying this like multi-$100 course, and you're like, I don't know if it's what do you think course makers should be doing to give people a taste, but not give away the whole course for free? Because that is the kind of the hardest thing. You can't show them what they're buying, because in that case you've already given away the information.
Yeah, the most common practice I've seen is giving away the first lesson or two for free. And so, for example, I just started selling my course, and I think you can watch the first lesson for free. There's a pretty in-depth promo, but I did 3 YouTube tutorials where I showed how to make some of the models, and then I showed how to do the rigs, and then I gave one of the rigs I teach you how to make for free away. So that was how I showed content. And then I mentioned purchasing content earlier, I guess because Curtis mentioned what he bought. I was kind of running through my head what I bought. I bought quite a bit. Back in the day, I bought Video Copilot's like advanced training back when they gave you DVDs. And then
we had those. They were awesome.
And then I've bought Blender Cloud training. I've bought CG Cookie training. I've bought Skillshare training. I've taken Udemy courses like through work, and then I've done school motion courses through work. Motion Design School, MoGraph Mentor, I think I already said Skillshare. Yeah, I've done like a lot now that like I think about flipped normals. And then I know CG Boost stuff is pretty good too. I bought Gleb Alexandrov's course. So yeah, I bought like a ton of them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess the way I see it is it's like, okay, I buy this course for, I don't know, $100 to $300, and that seems like a lot. But since I'm doing it for a living, if it's going to make me $3,000 back, that's a worthy investment. But anyways, yeah, so I've noticed that mostly they give away first lessons is really useful, or they give away assets or resources from the course to kind of give you an idea. So in my case, it was like, here's the simple rig, and if you like the simple rig, why don't you learn how to make it yourself? And also there's an advanced one, and I'll teach you how to model and texture it, you know.
That goes perfectly into the next thing I want to ask you. So Southern Shoddy just released a character modeling design rigging course on MoGraph Mentor. And so if you're trying to learn that, go check it out. We should probably put it in the description of this video.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, because I've only watched one course, and I'm thinking about making one or two of my own. When you decided to make a course, and of course you picked the topic of character rigging and modeling and all that, how did you go about deciding how to structure it? And because being that character design is such a broad topic, there's a million things you could talk about. How did you pick the things that you thought were valuable to what you wanted to teach? It's like sort of the structure of your course.
Yeah, so I just launched my How to Model and Character course on MoGraph Mentor, which MoGraph Mentor is geared towards more intermediate and advanced users for motion design industry in general. They've mostly done Cinema 4D training with After Effects training and some cell animation training, and now they're getting into Blender training that they got me on there. And it's like, so that was more of like an advanced course, so the structure was like slightly different than how I go about structuring a Skillshare course. So I've done 2 Skillshare courses, and I'm currently working on my 3rd. And the way I kind of tell people how my educational content works is everything on YouTube's free. I don't plan on quitting YouTube anytime soon. And with YouTube, it's like 15 to 30 minute tutorials that are beginner friendly, that you can sit down and do everything in that video. And then Skillshares for like beginners and hobbyists who like care to learn a little bit more or go a little bit deeper. And those are about 1 to 2 hours. And at Skillshare, I'm in their program, which is called the High Potential Teacher Program, which basically means that they think I could become a top teacher on there. So they give me a one-on-one coach to like work with me, to coach me to create the best course. And there, what they do is they give me like a lot of like marketing insight into their community, what their community is looking for, what their community responds well to. And so they really help me structure my course. And I have like, I'll write my outline and then I'll send it to the coach for feedback. MoGraph Mentor being intermediate and advanced users. So that's more like 3 to 4 hour courses for people who want to use Blender professionally or who are deeply invested in their hobby. So if you want to like make money off Blender, it's like it's geared more towards people like that. And Michael Jones is the owner of MoGraph Mentor, and he's been doing it for many years. And he was one of the first people to kind of get into online education for motion design. And they also have like a mentorship program. So it's a pretty unique platform, and he worked with me in the same way where I gave him my outline, and you know, we kind of worked back and forth on that outline. If you want, I can go into more detail on how I outline and everything, but I also don't want to like run the whole podcast. So, you know.
So with this virus, you know, ruining industries and everyone's home, do you think there's going to be a lot more courses popping up? And what do you think about the prices of them? Are they going to be down? Are they going to be the same?
Are you talking to me or everybody?
Anybody, you know.
Okay, cool.
I'd imagine the potential customers goes up. A lot of people want to learn stuff during their free time.
What do you think about I would, the pricing? In my guess, not that I know anything about very many industries, I'm going to just speak from my perspective. I think the optimistic people are going to be the ones to purchase the courses. You know, the ones that are doom and gloom are going to be like, oh, I'm not going to pay money because who knows what I'm going to be doing in August or whatever. I think the people who are going to be buying the courses are the optimistic ones, thinking like, okay, I'm going to learn this, so when this whole thing is over, I'm going to kill it in the industry that I want to kill it in, which encourages me to want to make a course. But in terms of the price, I'm a little bit worried to give that 150 like professional premium price because that might scare people away, but I don't want to get it too low. Then it makes my course look cheap. So it's like trying to figure out where this course industry is happening. And I think we probably will see a lot more courses. And I think all over the board, we're going to see new things happening. Like in the music industry, there's no concerts happening. So what are these guys going to do? I think a lot of people have been seeing these sort of VR concerts that are happening. That a couple of people are doing. I know Rez did one. That might start happening more, I think. Would be really cool. But I think a lot of people are going to be coming up with new ideas because they're to release their music only digitally, can't play it live. So how are we going to make something interesting for our fans? Which is good for guys like us because we can hopefully get clients from that, hopefully learn new technologies, learn new ideas that can house on like YouTube, Instagram, new platforms, Twitch, all those platforms, which would be really cool. But I think the course industry is going to have a lot more content, but we'll see what happens with pricing and we'll see what happens with actually people buying them. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I have seen more people putting their content on sale as well. And I'm wondering if that's like a reaction to them thinking that people aren't going to be spending as much money, or whether it's because now they're worried about their income as well, so now they're putting a sale on. So I don't know if like the actual interest might balance out, where there's a certain amount of people that don't want to be spending money, and yet there's a certain amount of people that want to learn new things during this time, whether that's going to like balance out so that we don't see much of a change or not. But I suppose like we'll be able to compare the data after this year to like to previous years and then see what happens. But it's definitely.
Do you think like buying decisions have already altered, or is that going to alter over the next month or two?
I think it's already altered. It's already done in the future. Are you guys planning on doubling down on YouTube content now? Just sort of like house those people who want to learn new things?
I got scheduled uploads for a couple days from now.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think. Sorry.
I was going to say that because my idea of what I'm going to be outputting to YouTube is changing quite rapidly now. I feel like I'm going to be a bit less serious with it. In the case of like, I don't think I'm going to be speaking on every single video that I'm going to be outputting. But so like the reason is because I know that during this time it's quite stressful. The thing that makes me happy is making resources and just experimenting. So I want to put out as much of that content as I can, and I probably won't be able to keep up with those resources by like writing scripts and then preparing the audio. So I'm probably going to be shifting more towards just doing that. So yeah, but hopefully that translates to more content being available for people overall during this time.
So, I mean, I think whenever you have like marketing data, it's like you can have all this data. It's amazing. You can get so much information. You can get people's age, their gender, their like country, but like it's still a guessing game into the motivation of what those numbers mean. So, for example, I know that all of us have experienced lower views on YouTube the past 2 weeks, and my guess is that that's because the algorithm's favoring coronavirus updates. And then MoGraph Mentor, like over there, I was talking to them about marketing data, and we're talking some of the other educational like platforms and stuff, and trying to figure out, because I know that as I'm talking to my friends who work at agencies, a lot of agencies where they have motion designers are having to lay people off, and then a lot of my friends who do freelance aren't getting work. And it's more than just events, right? Like events are canceled. That's a huge source of income for people in the 3D and the 2D industry. And then concerts are being canceled. That's a huge source of income for people in the motion design industry. And then you also have, but like other ways you don't really think about it is like restaurants. It's like, well, restaurants are cutting their ad budgets because they can't, like they're having to cut employees, so they're not going to dump $1 million into advertising when nobody's coming for the next couple months. And I think I heard that the owner of Hilton came out and said that they were like cutting their like ad revenue budget, like or their media budget, just drastically. And I mean that affects our industry a lot. So I think it's very reasonable to expect that people who do 3D and 2D animation are not going to have as much money to spend on courses. So I think it's fair to assume that like course sales will drop at least for a period. We're just entering this and we don't know what's going to happen. As Curtis said, we won't be able to tell until the end. I do think it's interesting though that my Skillshare like stats have like boosted drastically as this news has gone on. So this is my second Skillshare course. My first Skillshare course launched, and then it was a like 80% drop, and then it got about 20% of the views the next 3 to 4 months. Whereas like this course like rocketed up, hit trending on Skillshare, and then beat the first month. And then it started dropping drastically because it was no longer trending, and it had been out for 2 months, which I totally expected. But then this coronavirus stuff hit, and all of a sudden everybody got quarantined, and then it shot back up. And like now it's about to pass the second month and be even more profitable the second month. So it's like it's kind of crazy. And I would assume that's because Skillshare is geared towards beginners and hobbyists, probably people who enjoy doing that stuff and now have more time to do it, as opposed to professionals who are desperately trying to find like their pay and like where they're going to get paid. Those are all just guesses, of course, and like Curtis said, we won't know until the end, but I definitely think it's going to impact our industry, and I guess only time will, anything now is just a guess, but time will tell.
Yeah, and because of all that, I would say that Curtis is making the right move. There's nothing more liberating than making a video where you don't talk at all, just throw on some background music and upload. It's so good.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I saw the number of views you got on your what was it? Blendini? No, what was it?
Blendini.
Yeah, that was it. I was thinking, well, how many? Like, it's a short thing. You're not saying anything. Just tons of views. I was like, okay, maybe he's got the right idea.
It means you can go through projects quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm aiming for. But
yeah, I've been trying to give away like free resources too, so that like it's like you need that paid content to like survive. Eat and live. But it's like I just gave away a free texture and then a free rig, and I'm planning on giving away some more like free textures in the upcoming weeks, because it's kind of like, people are probably scared to spend money right now, but I still want them to like stick around and watch my stuff. So it's like just meet them where they're at right now, Yeah.
I was in the community in the digital and the 3D community in New York right after 9/11, and I just watched people's businesses dry up. I mean, like a lot of people. There were people who were like excited because they're like, all right, well, I don't have projects to do, so now I'm just going to go and learn. And it was fun. I mean, not that it was fun. It was not after 9/11. It was horrible, but like it was kind of the community came together and people were just kind of supporting each other. And then there's a point where kind of the inflection point, and this happened also in the last economic downturn, which 9/11 was before the dot-com bust, and then the last one was 2008, and I watched the same thing happen where, people on the news talking about, they came up with the word fun employment. So instead of being unemployed, it's fun employed, because now you're on vacation and you can do all this stuff that you didn't have time for. Well, that's great for like a couple of months until your bills start eating you. And then you start, the panic sets in, and then all the money just crunches. So this is completely uncharted. I have no idea where this is going. Like, this is a virus. This is a pandemic. This is worldwide. This isn't like a local thing. But I think that there's going to be a point. There's going to be a couple of months, maybe a month or two, where it's going to be like, oh, cool, we get to stay home, and then it's going to be like, oh my god, what are we going to do? Like, I can't eat food. So and then after that, it'll probably it'll probably get better, because this is a wave. But
it's also it's really sad too, because like I know a lot of people, certain people, like I had the benefit of, in my position, that I can still get paid to do what I do remotely. Not everybody has that benefit, like restaurants are taking a major hit. And so my wife and I decided that, like, okay, well, in this opportunity, we've been blessed with like financial stability, so we should go try and help others who haven't. So like we're not really huge on eating out, because we're like big health eaters, so we make a lot of our own food. But we kind of made it like our goal to like go out like 3 to 4 days of the week to support restaurants, like specifically locally owned restaurants. And it was, we went out the first couple days and we're like, we're just here because like we're worried about you guys. You're one of our favorites. And they're like, we really appreciate that. It's been rough. And then we did that a couple days, and then like Saturday we went out and like picked up takeout from somewhere, and they're like, this is like the busiest day we've had. They're like, everybody's coming in and ordering takeout. It's great. And it's like,
Nice.
So like, that's nice that people are out there trying to help,
Yeah, we are too. Like I'm one of the few that still actually has to go into work. So I'm gonna buy a hazmat suit and go in. Like I can't get out of this, and so I'm we'll be using takeout around where I work and supporting those local restaurants as well. So it's interesting for sure.
Yeah. So like Southern, you mentioned some of the struggles of like freelancing in this time. That's something I've been thinking about quite a bit, because in the UK the government's been like announcing measures to help people with their finances. That they've said that they'll pay like 80% of wages for people that can no longer work, but it doesn't necessarily cover like self-employed people, freelancers, and obviously that work's going to be affected, because not even just from like creative technical fields, but plumbers and builders and stuff like that who no longer have work to do. But yeah, because like they closed the film studios for my dad, so now he's not working, which is strange for him because he works all the time usually, and like he's been like doing nothing for a few days, and he says, I'm just going mad. I'm going mad. I've got nothing to do, because like we shared like that creative obsession thing where you have to just keep making stuff. I said to him, look, I can give you stuff to do to help with the channel if you want, but now it's actually strange from like a pressure standpoint, because occasionally now I'm like the only person in the house that's actually making an income every day, because I'm the only one that's doing the online work basically. And that's a little bit freaky, because all of a sudden it's like, first of all, your work's become super validated, because like you're the only one in the house making money like on a specific day, but also like the element of pressure has now increased massively, because you're like, oh god, like how long is this going to have to go on for? Like, am I going to have to like buckle down and make this really serious and try and squeeze out as much as I can, like in fear of life never going back to normal? But I feel like that's something that a lot of people are thinking about right now. So just if anyone's listening to this and feeling that, you're not alone.
I was wondering too if there was any way to do, I like really wanted to do like a charity stream, because you know how they have like the super chat donation. I wanted to do like a charity stream and then like find some organization related to kind of like people struggling right now to like donate to, but unfortunately at only 25,000 subs, I don't know that I might get like 3 viewers, so I don't know that I could raise anything. But for some of you guys have like 150, maybe you guys could do that. That'd be great.
Who here has 150?
Doesn't Grant? Don't you have like
quite
oh damn, Grant.
Yeah.
I on related to just helping people out financially. So I live in Nashville, and a tornado just went and messed up a part of town.
Oh, that's right.
One thing that's really sad about that area is we just got hit with a tornado. Those businesses are messed up, and now coronavirus comes in and completely wrecks them.
It's sad.
But looking at some sort of love in that tragedy. So one of my favorite places in Nashville called the Soda Parlor. The owner, he's a comedian. He also he does a lot of YouTube stuff. Olin Rogers. He started a GoFundMe. I think it was a GoFundMe to basically pay the employees, just pay them while they're looking for the next job, which is a really cool thing. I don't see a lot of companies doing. It's trying to find a way to pay their employees at least a little bit. Like most people are just getting dropped. I know Zach Brown, the Zach Brown band just laid off their entire team. So it's like, it would be good to find a way, like a charity stream, things like that, to really find a way and give back to the people that really need it. Like for me, I'm pretty good where I'm at, but I'm still going to be rolling out products, rolling out things to see if I can have some money to help some people out. Because I think the charity stream is a really great idea that I never considered, and I'm actually gonna think about that, because that's really good. I like that a lot.
I wonder if we can do a BlenderNest live sometime, like on this channel, but point people like towards it.
I think it'd be more beneficial, like whoever has the biggest channels, which are like Ducky, CG, and Grant, to do it on one of your channels, and then you guys can just bring us in. So like,
we could do a
we could just like
Grant's already the live stream king.
Yeah, he's
I
doing
think,
really well.
I mean, we could talk about this more privately, but that's a really good idea that I think we could just try to add some positivity in the garbage that we see in the news every single day.
I mean, it could be a more like lighthearted stream. Like it doesn't doesn't have to be. It can even just be like a video game. I mean, like a lot of games are like modeled in Blender, so we can even just find some that are heavily, like developed in Blender with all the modeling.
We can all put cameras on our hats.
Yeah.
I think people would really just enjoy the interaction as well, because we all have very dedicated audience members and followers. The ones that just follow you everywhere and watch all your videos. I feel like for them as well, because the majority of what they get from us is like one-way content, and it's personal to a certain degree, like when we address them. But having the live stream chat really adds access to like a whole other level of interaction, and I feel like they enjoy that, because then having all of us like laugh at something that they say and like engage in a conversation,
if
I
they're
think
funny. But...
Yeah, you like to insult your audience sometimes. I don't know.
I do sometimes.
Real quick, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Like a little bitty spider hit my mic, so I muted it and I rubbed it off. I'd make sure I didn't want to touch any buttons or something.
Okay.
Could always do some sort of weird blend off where we all try and create some, I don't know what it might be, whatever it might be, some weird character or something in a certain amount of time, and then we upload that and we put our screens.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen
the video idea?
Yeah.
Remington Graphics chaos modeling, where he has someone else and he just say like model this? I don't know the exact format, but I think if we do something maybe with like chaos modeling, that'd be super fun.
That'd be fun.
I'm going to say that this brainstorming session is awesome, and that for anybody listening, if you have ideas of what you think could be fun to do in a charity live stream, do it in the comments below and let us know, and we'll move on so that we can get on to talking to our other topics. But we'd love to hear if you guys have any charity ideas in the comments below for a live stream and whose channel you think we should do it on. I'm voting one of you three because you guys have the biggest following already. Maybe Grant's because he already live streams, so they're already kind of trained.
It'd be great to like promote it for a week and then do the live stream.
Yeah.
So we're talking about passive income, talking about courses. Do you guys have any future plans on, besides a course, other ways to try to support your channels, even non-monetary, just like new ideas you have for the channel? I'm wanting to try a interview series that specifically, I don't know if I'm going to call it like artist origins or something, but just talk to someone about how they got into art from the very beginning. I'm talking like childhood. What was their first step into art, and what did they do here? Like, when was their first program they got into that eventually led them to what they're doing today? And like every person I interview, get that whole story, because personally I find that super fascinating. And now that we're all home, I think people are more available to do something like that. So that's one thing I'm planning to do on my channel. So do you guys have any like plans that you're trying, new stuff, monetary or non-monetary, that you could do on the channel that'll be more interesting, more fun?
Yeah, I mean, like we were speaking about this a little bit before we started recording as well, but I'm trying to go for a different direction with my channel now, but as I've just mentioned, because I'm trying to change the balance of content output, to be more resource focused than video focused. But also on top of that, I'm going to try and set up like a store directory on my website to help people find resources that don't necessarily watch the YouTube content, or people that know that the resources exist but don't want to have to go through the YouTube videos to find the exact link to get to the Gumroad page and that. So that's something I want to do to sort of add like an extra step of separation between the YouTube and the business side of it. Also,
so Curtis, ideally, would you want these to be independent from each other, or would you rather have your tutorials promote the products, or your products actually promote the tutorials?
A bit of both ways, really. I mean, because like I want to do videos about the most important things, but also I want to have the freedom just to throw stuff out there that isn't really as important, but people will still enjoy playing with as well. So it's just trying to find ways to link everything, and yet at the same time keep it separate. It might sound weird like that, but I'll find a way. But also there's like little extra things I was planning on like having released but never got around to. Like there's Holt Labs, and I know that like Gleb has Shrimp Labs. That is okay, not copying at all, it's just coincidence. There's a section on my site called Holt Labs, which is not enabled for people, but it was where I was going to share interactive demos from game engines, and it's still there, but it's not ready yet. And the first one was going to be called GravKick. It was this whole made a system where it would transition from a kinematic first-person controller to a rigid body first-person one, and you'd be able to shift the position of gravity. It would be non-planar, and then whenever you swap back to like a regular gravity first-person mode, the point that gravity goes to would shift, and all the rigid bodies in the world would shift as well. So it was this fun little demo for a script, and that was built in Unity.
Kind of like Portal on steroids.
A little bit, yeah. And then I was also going to share like case studies and like things that I'm interested in, but I wouldn't do videos about because they're really esoteric. I was going to like write little PDFs about them and then put them on this Holt Labs area. But I haven't gotten around to releasing that yet because like all other things got in the way, projects, and then this virus hits and my productivity goes way down low. So there is ideas for things that I want to do to make it more fun and just, you know, output more stuff. But because of the virus and all of this, it's just, I don't know whether that's going to get done this year or later, or whether the idea for all of it is just going to change. I feel like for me it's really important to have the freedom to change everything about like your direction and your ideas on the fly, because like I'm sure that all of us, even like in last year or when we started, have like an idea of what we were going to do for the channel, and over time you've realized, oh wait, that idea as its own is kind of dumb because it doesn't really match up with how I feel about it now and like how the audience has reacted to certain types of content. And oh wow, I've learned all these new things that I want to apply. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but
wait, one more thing before Ducky switches. It seems like your motivation like stays the same. It has stayed the same, right?
Yeah, overall I would say it has. And just on that point, I feel like that's because as much as I will say on the regular day-to-day that I'm making the content for people to enjoy and to use, at the end of the day it really is me making it for myself, and I feel like that's important because I know what I enjoy most of all. So like if I had the choice between making something super educational but also kind of boring for me to make, and me making some personal artwork that people probably won't watch, I'll probably go for my personal artwork because that's more enjoyable for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Actually, I was going to ask something else, but I just remembered because you were talking about changing. So I'm a graphic designer, so mostly usually change means a new logo. I wanted to ask you about your logo, Curtis. What is so for those? We'll see if my camera can show it.
I haven't seen this.
Yes, the circular thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So what is that? What's that? What's sort of the thought behind that design?
So I ran an alternate reality game called Entropy back in 2018, and an alternate reality game is a puzzle-based thing that takes place in real life. So people will have to like look at websites for fake companies, find clues for things, contact certain people that don't really exist, and then get more trailheads and follow clues like that. Okay. And I wrote several pieces of software to have people communicate with different characters. And I was playing the game master, and people didn't know that I was the game master. And in this story, there were different companies or factions, if you want, and there was symbols that represented like each of the main characters, and all these symbols look sort of similar in some way. And there was a symbol that represented humanity or the host, and it's that symbol that I'm using as my logo. And people say, well, what is it supposed to represent? Well, it's a few things. It's a locked key or a key lock that's in the lock position, and it rotates 90 degrees to become unlocked. So the idea behind it is, while I'm finding my footing in the world and getting an audience, it's in the locked position, and then once I've got the footing and I can do what I want to do, it will move to the unlocked position. That's the idea behind it.
And are you going to update it when you feel like you're in that spot?
Yep.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I feel like we should go down the line. Everybody should explain their logo or whatever.
So mine, I made it a really long time ago, a few years ago, and it was sort of like, well, it was a duck head. And then I sort of made it out of triangles. It looked like vertices. Mm-hmm. And so that was the initial idea. I hadn't gone to any kind of graphic design school at the time, so I just sort of did my best, and it looked okay. But the concept was Ducky 3D, a duck with made out of vertices, kind of gives out like that hint at 3D. And it just sort of sat on my website for a while, and then once I started learning about good logo design, I started to hate how I executed that logo. And so I actually got a much, much better designer, William Johnson, and he redid it, made it more minimal, but still has that vertice, but Ducky 3D with like vertices, triangles. Huh. And I loved the concept, but I designed it terribly. So for those of you who can see the channel, it's redesigned, but still the same concept. So that's sort of the concept behind my logo.
Yeah.
I'll go next. So mine, if people don't remember, it's this like red sphere that's distorted. And the reason for that is CG Matter wasn't supposed to be a YouTube channel. It was supposed to be a website where you could download materials I made that I was going to call matters, the same way that Substance calls their things substances. And I just thought that sphere kind of represented, it's a material website. And I was also learning the node network stuff. So it's just like a distorted wave texture on a displacement map. So that's why it's that.
See, now that makes sense, because I never knew that. Yeah. I always thought, wait, did he just like randomly make some distorted sphere one day and go, yep, that's my brand?
That's
what I thought too.
I was like, I need some logo. Yeah, what about Southern? I bet there's something to that cat.
Oh, yeah, that's my floppy cat. Like, when I first like started doing stuff, I was like, I don't know if I want to show my face, so I just like lifted my cat in front of me for the photo. And I was just like,
clickbait.
Yeah.
I remember. So I found Southern a year before he started his YouTube channel. He was doing these Halloween character animations, and it got posted on some Blender repost app on Instagram. Site on Instagram. And I was like, this guy's cool. And it was at the time where I was trying to find new Blender people. And then all of a sudden, a year later, he's like, hey, dude. And so we started talking. But I remember seeing that cat. And it looks, the thing about that cat is it looks exactly like my cat that had passed away a while ago. So I was like, I like this guy already.
That's actually the same photo I use like on all my professional sites too. Like, it's like I just go with it everywhere. So.
Yeah, I just recently had to since my website's getting redesigned, I got a new portrait done.
I know, you had your little leg poking out and everything.
Yeah, my little leg poking out. Yeah. And but I look like a house DJ, and so I posted it on Instagram. I said, I can't wait for my song to come out on Spinnin'. And I think a lot of people don't know what Spinnin' Records is. And so some of them are like, dude, for real? Oh, yeah. I think it was a very horribly placed joke that a lot of people didn't get.
I like that one.
I get it.
I was just going to say, somebody said about like using that picture professionally. I have a story about the first picture I used as my profile picture for this YouTube channel was me with my like head turned sideways with the longer hair. Sort of became like a bit of a brand image until I changed it. But I went for a dentist appointment one day recently, and they said, hey, we just need to update some of your information. Can you just check over this? And I went over there, and it had that profile picture on like my info card, and I was like, how did you get that? Like, imagining the dentist going and taking a picture from the YouTube channel who I've never ever mentioned it about. But it turns out that the system was using Gravatar. And if you know what Gravatar is, it's basically like a web service where you can put a picture up, and then other web services can use that as like your default picture. So obviously they had my email tied to their like info block for me, and that automatically grabbed the image. So that's the reason why.
That must have been creepy.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god. Yeah,
it's like you guys are fans.
It's like, oh
my god,
nice.
Curtis, a big fan.
Yeah.
Just like
what about Wonder Binge's logo?
It's a shape on Photoshop.
Well, I noticed when I looked closely that there were like a spiral of skulls. I always just saw like a spiral, but never like looked closly.
Oh, that's from the tutorial.
The spiral of the skulls is from a tutorial I did because I don't know, I just thought skulls were cool at the moment, and I was like, hey, so I like did this modifier thing, and I made skulls, and it was trippy and cool, and I was like, I like this, so I'm gonna make a tutorial of this because it's fun, and then I just ended up using it for certain things, and I might end up using it, like I use it in my Patreon banner and other things, but yeah, the Blender Binge thing is just that like little circular orange thingy with the BB in it, and that's just Photoshop.
Reminds me of like the SpongeBob like background things they have in the sky always. Those flower things.
Exactly. I was like, it just goes back to like when I used to play in a band, and like coming up with a band name, but even back in high school, coming up with a band name took me like months, and I'm just like, what I learned from that? I'm like, screw it. There it is. There's the shape. That's the name. I'm using Binge. I hate the name Binge, but I'm using Binge, and that's it. And I'm going with it, and now I'm stuck with it. And like, as far as changing, like I'm like, all right, I want to like I've used so much software professionally over the years that I'm like, I kind of want to like branch out and do like other. I love Blender. I love it. I think it's awesome, and I'm gonna stick like Blender's gonna be like the main focus of everything. But like, there's so much like peripheral stuff, like Houdini, and like that. I use Houdini at work pretty much every day now. Like for 10 years, I used Maya every single day at work. So I'm like, I could teach all this stuff. And like maybe branch out and grow a bigger audience and maybe
nobody's teaching Maya or Houdini really. I feel
Nobody
like I mean, I haven't seen many. I mean, I don't search for a ton of Maya tutorials, but I mean, I do search for a ton of 3D tutorials, and I sometimes will look for other tutorials. Like, I mean, how to model a hand. I don't need to know how to model a hand in Blender. I just need to know how to model a hand. And it's like, I don't really see many of those other formats. I mean, Maya in particular, I think you tap into the kind of character animator audience, which is definitely huge with college students and things who are the ones watching YouTube a lot.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Maya's everywhere. I mean, it really is like the biggest. It's still the big dog on the block, and it's a great package. I mean, honestly, I think it's kind of a bit dated. I think when Autodesk took over, I just felt like it just kind of started getting less and less, fun. But I still think it's a great piece of software. I do. But when I found Blender, I found like the biggest thing with Blender for me was it put the fun back in 3D for me. It really did, honestly. Like, I mean, I was working with Maya and then Houdini, and Houdini's a really fun package, but the learning curve's like, honestly, it's like straight uphill. It's like climbing like Creekstone. It's just insane. But when I found Blender, I was like, this is so much fun. So I started getting really into it. But now I'm like, I have all this other knowledge and all this other techniques from this different software. I'm like, I could just teach people how to like model a hand, and like it doesn't really matter what software you use. And I think a lot of people get hung up on that. Like they get like, oh, Maya's better, or Blender's better than everything, and Houdini's better. It's like there's a core skill set that you need to know, and if you know that core skill set, everything else is just what button is where. Like, how do I do this in here? Like, I've been able to do that from Lightwave to Maya to Houdini. Picking up 3D Studio Max, True Space in the very beginning, Blender. It doesn't matter. Just they all work very similarly as far as modeling and things. So like I kind of want to branch my channel out, but then I'm afraid if I like stray from Blender, then there goes my whole interest in my channel. So it's like, do I start a new channel? So? I don't know.
I contemplate.
I don't know.
One thing I think about a lot is when is Adobe going to make a good 3D application? Because right now they just have a Dimension, which is only for still images, and then they bought Algorithmic, and I don't know where are they going with this. But I've thought about if they made a really good program, I would definitely hop on that as quickly as possible. And then sometimes I think about getting other programs, and I get scared that I'm going to love them so much more than Blender that I'll forget about Blender. So I'm like, I'm just going to stay in Blender because I'm doing so well in it. I don't care. I really would just want to stay in the thing that I've gotten very good success in. But I'm always worried, what if I like it more than this thing? Not that I think I will, but I worry about everything. But if Adobe made a Cinema 4D, I would definitely get it because that would just blow up. Everything Adobe.
Pretty much Element. They've rested on Element in After Effects and using that. I don't know if they have plans for 3D. They've touched it so many times over the years, and honestly, they just buy software companies now. So anyone's guess they could just acquire Maxon. I don't know. Probably not, but who knows?
They put a lot more into. So they just bought Substance Suite, and they put a lot more into Dimensions, and then now they have their own AR division. And so I think Dimensions, from what I understand, is going to get bigger and bigger. And I think what they're really, at least currently, going after is making it so that graphic designers can do product renderings, so that they can, the way you apply image textures in Adobe Dimensions is so simple that 2D artists get it almost immediately, and then they have all these preset lighting setups packaged with it.
Yeah.
So I think they're definitely going after that market because there's a lot of people that they need a little bit of 3D, but not enough to justify dumping thousands of hours into it, and then the things they need it for don't justify the cost of freelancing somebody for a full day. But Adobe's always massive, always acquiring companies. They're making more money than they ever have before by a long shot. They're just massive for profit, and I really think that they're going to push into it more. But I mean, only time will tell.
Yeah, my one of my teachers, my color theory teacher, he was basically saying like, I think at some point Adobe is going to purchase Maxon, but then I heard who owns Maxon, and the fact that that'll probably not happen based on the people who own Maxon. Yeah. So it's like, are they going to just develop their own thing? Are they going to build off of Dimension? I remember my first time I ever made a tutorial was in Adobe Dimension. Like I took an image, I extruded it in Photoshop, exported the OBJ, put it in Dimension, added a sphere. It has great materials which were made by Substance in Dimension. They have really good HDRIs. It's like I made an abstract. Of course, I made an abstract tutorial in Dimension as my first tutorial.
Of course.
And I think it's super solid. It's a really solid program that looks really nice for someone who's never done 3D. If you're like trying to step into it and like find out like how fun and satisfying 3D really is, Dimension is really a wonderful app.
Wait, we forgot something. Grant.
Your logo.
I was hoping you'd brush by me because my logo. Well, I updated it to.
I'm ready.
Thing that I drew, and then I thought, well, I ought to look a bit more professional, so I've updated my face to a photo. But I want to rebrand, but I'd never come up with a full idea about what my channel really is, because lots of you have an identity, don't you? But mine's just all over the place, so it's not got any sort of really specific identity.
I think you have an identity. I think you're just not aware of it yet, because I think all of us could probably agree that you definitely have an identity of the type of videos you do.
Oh yeah.
Because like the specific thing you teach might be all over the place, but how you make them, how you do your thumbnails, how you structure it is super similar. You definitely have something. I think you just need to dig into it more and find out what that is.
Yeah, your thumbnails. Yeah, your thumbnails are definitely like recognizable. And I've had some people asking me for advice on that recently as well. Like, how do you make your channel look more professional? I said consistency is really something that people look for when they're going to subscribe. And your thumbnails are very consistent. I mean, even with like the type of font and like the amount of black in them compared to like, you know, the rest of the other imagery.
They're really dull, aren't they?
Well, actually, they're really recognizable because I don't see any other thumbnails looking like that. And you've done so many of them like that it's really solidified that style. Also, I think there's a bit of a charm to being all over the place as well. Because even your website as well, which, you know, is I like your website. I like it. There's like, you know, Tommy Wiseau and Something So Bad It's Nice. You know, like you enjoy watching it.
That's what I was going for.
Yeah, no. But if you haven't gone to it, like you've got this amazing learning path thing on your website, which is actually a really useful guide for people, like where you should start and where you should carry on from there, and that's actually really helpful. And you know, I feel like if you had some sort of like hyper professional interface for that, it would probably ruin it a bit. Because like it's really clear for people to follow. So I think there's a certain element of charm in there as well. So I don't think that's anything particularly bad.
I'm gonna go with that. That's
I think the important thing about thumbnails too, for people that are asking for advice on thumbnails, I think consistency really nails it home. That having a consistent look is almost better than having like one really good looking thing if it's on an inconsistent page. But functionality is huge too. Like, if I was going to design a pretty thumbnail, I wouldn't put giant white block text on it with a shadow behind it. But, like, people need to be able to read it and see it in half a second on their phone. So, yeah, that's big too, you know.
Yeah, impact.
I say to people, when you're doing text for thumbnails, do the blur test. Blur your eyes. If you can't interpret it, then make it larger. You know, that's what I tell people.
And don't put a sea urchin on it.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think we can probably wrap this episode up. This was really good.
All right,
I think so.
All right, well, thank you guys for watching.
Again, a reminder in the comments below, let us know if you'd like to see a charity stream, and if so, what content you'd like to see on that. And then, you know, it'll be a bit of like, if we can get the logistics together, to schedule everybody with, you know, some of us being over in Europe and some of us being here and some of us working day jobs and not, but we'll see what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Well, see you guys next week.
And don't forget the Patreon.
Patreon.